Odeya Bikuli Sharet Tzedek Avo Bam Odeya 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 Itkuli Sharet Tzedek Avobam Odeya Bikuli Sharet Tzedek Avobam Yafe hayom Shabbat shalom Yafe hayom Shabbat shalom Shabbat Shabbat shalom Shabbat Shabbat shalom Shabbat Shabbat shalom Shabbat shalom Yafe hayom Shabbat shalom Yafe hayom Shabbat shalom Shabbat Shabbat shalom Shabbat Shabbat shalom Shabbat Shabbat shalom Shabbat shalom.
How wonderful it is to come together this morning for a beautiful day. Actually, we do have a beautiful day today here in Northwood, and I hope wherever you're joining us from, it is also a beautiful day. But also for a beautiful Shabbat where we get to celebrate with a wonderful couple, with Judy and Steve. If you wanna, Judy and Steve, if you wanna just stand up, then we can zoom at the camera and they can say hello to you. There we are. So all of you who are here to celebrate with Judy and Steve, it's so wonderful to have them with us in the sanctuary. For now, they are still with their masks, but later on the bimah, we'll allow them to take their masks off and celebrate. Yet? Oh, yeah, not quite. Hanukkah first to go.
There we go.
But wherever you are joining us from, it's wonderful to have you, whether it's France or Belgium or Sweden or the United States or Northwood. We invite you to join us in the mantle of community by donning your talitot. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehitatef b'tzitzit.
And just for those people who are joining us for the Simcha, for the special occasion today as well, when you message, please do message and write your name in the body of the text as well, because it doesn't always pop up.
Yeah, especially if you're posting in a Facebook group. If you're posting on YouTube, we should be able to see your name, but in the groups, we can't see your name, and therefore Judy and Steve can't say that you're wishing them Mazel Tov.
We're basically following Service 1 today from Siddur Lev Chadash, which starts on page 105, page 105. But wherever you are, whether you're following the prayers on screen, in your Siddurim, or just in your heart and in your mind, please rise as we begin our service of welcoming each other into this congregation today. Ma tovu מה טוב הוא, אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך Israel.
How lovely are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. How lovely it is actually that we have in here, there's both names for Jacob and Yisrael, as we learned today in our Torah portion, although not in the part that we'll be reading. But you may be seated. And we continue together as we say the prayers of our ancestors. Help us, O God, to remember their faith and devotion, their joy and suffering, and make us worthy of our heritage. May the tradition we have received live in us and pass from us to generations we shall never know, enriched by the truth we have found and the good we have done. So may we fulfill our task on earth and receive our blessing.
Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu. Eternal God, school us in your teachings and make us loyal to your commandments. May we never consent to evil or surrender to temptation or self-contempt. Help us to rise above selfishness and make us responsive to the voice of conscience. Direct our every impulse to your service. Today and every day, may we merit kindness and compassion in your sight and in the sight of all who behold us, and let us know your love. We praise you, O God, for the love you daily show us.
Na 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 na
Together we read.
ברוך שמה והיה העולם, ברוך הוא. ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, המהולל בפי עמו, משובח ומפואר בלשון חסידיו ועבדיו. בשבחות ובזמירות, נגדלך ונמליכך, מלכנו יחיד חי העולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מלך מהולל בתשבחות. אשרי יושבי ביתך, עוד יהללוך סלה.
אשרי העם שככה לו, אשרי העם שאדוני אלוהיו.
תהילה לדוד, ארומימך אלוהי המלך, ואברך שמך לעולם ועד.
בכל יום אברכך, והללה שמך לעולם ועד.
גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, ולגדולתו אין חקר.
דור לדור ישבח מעשיך, וגבורתך יגידו.
הדר כבוד הודיך, ודברי נפלותיך עשיך.
ועזוז נורתך יאמרו, וגדולתך ספרנה.
זכר רב טובך יביעו, וצדקתך ירננו.
חנון ורחום אדוני, ערך אפיים וגדול חסד.
טוב אדוני לכל, ורחמיו על כל מעשיו.
יודוך אדוני כל מעשיך, וחסידיך יברכוך.
כבוד מלכותך יאמרו, וגבורתך ידברו.
להודיע לבני האדם גבורותיו, וכבוד האדם מלכותו.
מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור.
סומך אדוני לכל הנופלים, וזוקף לכל הכפופים.
עיני כל אליך יסברו, ואתה נותן להם את אוכלם בעיתו.
פותח את ידיך, ומשביע לכל חי רצון.
צדיק אדוני בכל דרכיו, וחסיד בכל מעשיו.
הרוב אדוני לכל קוראיו, לכל אשר יקראוהו באמת.
רצון יראיו יעשה, ואת שבתם ישמע ויושיע.
תהילת אדוני ידבר פיhi, ויברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד.
ואנחנו נברך יה, מעתה ועד עולם. Hallelujah.
Please rise.
ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, האל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים ובארץ. כי לך נאה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו. שיר ושבחה, הלל וזמרה, ברכות והודאות מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בשירי זמרה.
And for those of you in Siddur Lev Chadash, we turn to page 135, page 135. And if the Louis sing loud enough and the Custo Goldstein sings loud enough at this moment in time, they'll hear each other in Croxley Green. And this is really our purpose through all of our services. Please sing and read your hearts out. We can hear you through all of the messages. We know we are one big congregation. So all together. as we continue reading together.
We praise you, eternal one, our God, sovereign of the universe, maker of light and creator of darkness, author of peace and creator of all things. In your mercy you give light to the earth and all who live on it. And in your goodness you renew creation continually, day by day. How manifold are your works, O God! With wisdom have you made them all. The world is full of your creations. Your handiwork proclaims your praise. The radiant stars bear witness to your glory. We praise you, O God, creator of light.
And we continue together. Ahava rabba ahavtanu Adonai Eloheinu. Chemla gedola v'tera chamalta aleinu. Avinu malkeinu, ba'arvur avotenu shabatuchu v'cha. V'telamdem chukei chaim, ken techonenu utelamdenu. V'ten belibeinu lehavin ulehaskil. Lishmoa lilmod ulalmeid. לשמור ולעשות ולקיים את כל דברי תורתך באהבה. והאר עינינו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויחד לבבנו לאהבה וליראה את שמך. כי בנו בחרת ליחדך באהבה, ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה. And we've got many people from many different traditions joining us today. So if it is your tradition to stand for the Shema, then please do, and feel free not to, if that's also your tradition.
Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod, Shem Kavod Mahuto Leolam, Leolam Vayed. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod, Shem Kavod Mahuto Leolam, Leolam Vayed. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך, בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך. וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
Please be seated. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני
Adonai Elohechem.
Good and beautiful and true, sound, established and enduring are these words now and forever. True it is, Eternal One, that you are our sovereign God and Redeemer. As you were the God and Redeemer of our ancestors, you are our Maker, the rock of our salvation. We have known you always as our helper and our liberator. There is no God but you. Truly you are first and you are last. We have no Redeemer but you. You redeemed us from Egypt and freed us from the house of bondage. Then with great joy, Moses, Miriam, and all Israel together sang to you this song. Mi chamocha balim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osefele.
A new song the redeemed sang to your name at the shore of the sea. With one accord they gave thanks and proclaimed your sovereignty.
Please rise. Adonai sefatai tifta ufia gite gilatecha. Adonai sefatai tifta ufia gite gilatecha. Eternal God, open up my lips, that my mouth shall declare your praise. Eternal God, open up my lips, that my mouth shall declare your praise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Koneh Hakol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך חוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מזריח השמש ומוריד הטל. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאיך.
קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ, כבודו. כבודו מלא עולם.
ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. ממקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו, כי מחכים אנחנו לך.
ימלוך אדוני לעולם,
אלוהי ציון,
לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Again, if it is your tradition to sit at this moment in time, please feel free to do so. And I would recommend, though, remaining standing and dancing with us as we try to keep our feet warm. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. בני אורן בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשר אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. We continue together. Our God and God of our ancestors, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments, and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts that we may serve you in truth. In your gracious love, eternal one, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts, and may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu ba'amacha Yisrael, utfilatam ba'ahavat kabel, tihil ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha.
Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha, b'yira na'avod. Modim anachnu lach, she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu le'olam va'ed. צור חיינו, מגן אישנו, אתה הוא לדור ודור. נודה לך ונספר תהילתך, על חיינו המסורים בידיך, ועל נשמותינו הפקודות לך, ועל ניסיך שבכל יום עמנו, ועל נפלותיך וטובותיך, שבכל עת ערב ובוקר בצהריים. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך, ולך נאה להודות. שלום, שים שלום, שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים, עלינו ועל כל ישראל עמך.
תתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו תורת חיים ואהבת חסד וצדקה וברכה ורחמים וחיים ושלום שים שלום שים שלום טוב וברכה בטוב בעיניך לברד את עמך ישראל ואת כל העמים בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך בכל עת בשלומך שלום שים שלום שים שלום טוב וברכה אין וחסד ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל רבך שים שלום שלום שים שלום
ברוך אתה אדוני עושה
השלום.
שלום.
יהיו לרצון אמרי פי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי אדוני צורי אדוני צורי וגואלי יהיו ליבי לפניך אדוני
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל בני אדם. Amen. We chose a few different pieces for you because we thought you are so much part of this musical tradition, and the one thing that really stands out for me about you is that you love everything. You love all the different styles. So I know that the community are enjoying it too, and it's wonderful to welcome you on the bimah. We haven't lost Rabbi Aaron. He's just below on the lower bimah. Now we're going to go to him in a moment, but we turn to our Torah service. If you are following in the book, then you have to turn to page 481. There is none like you, Eternal One, among the gods people worship, and there are no deeds like yours. Your sovereignty is everlasting. Your reign endures from age to age. Please rise.
אין כמוך ואלוהים אדוני, ואין כמעשיך. מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מעלה, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו ושלום.
שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד.
אחד אלוהינו, גדול אדוננו, קדוש שמו.
גדלו לאדוני איתי ונרוממו שמו יחדיו.
לך אדוני הגדולה והגבורה והתפארת והנצח וההוד. כי הוד בשמיים ובארץ. לך אדוני הממלכה מתנשא לכל לראש.
Before we turn to the Torah blessings, I think, Steve, do you want to say a few words before the Torah reading or after the blessing?
I'll do after the blessing.
We'll do it after the blessing. So it's wonderful that even though not quite physically in the space, we can bring your children into the space. And so we turn to Ed for our Torah blessings.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bacha banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Okay, so the story so far is that Jacob has spent 20 years away from his brother. And in that time, he's married Leah and Rachel and made a lot of money and got a bit fed up with his father-in-law Laban. So he decides to go home. But he knows that in order to do that, he has to encounter his brother. And in the bit just before the bit we're going to read, he's very worried because he realizes that his brother's got 400 men standing in front of him. And so he divides his possessions up into two. So if one camp is attacked, the other will survive. And then he goes off to have a small contemplate by himself. And that's the point at which he struggles with the angel. And that's where the angel says to him, or the man, angel, his own demons, you can't say, says to him, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, one who struggles with God. And so the bit we're going to come to now is where he meets his brother. And I'll read the English first, so you've got the whole story. And you'll see it's very typical of Jacob. He says he's going to do something, and then he chickens out at the end and does something else. So these are our forefathers. And just the final thing to say is I'm reading today from the Colin Scroll, which of those of you who know us know this has great significance for us. It's been a real contribution to our lives in many, many ways. Right. When Jacob was looking into the distance, he beheld Esau coming with his 400 men. So he divided the children amongst Leah, Rachel, and the two maids. He placed the maids and their children in front, Leah and her children next, with Rachel and Joseph last. He himself went on ahead of them and bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. Esau, though, ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they burst into tears. And when we come to this bit in the scroll, you'll see there's about 10 places in the scroll where the word has little dots over the word. And I think it's a track changes where some years ago, thousands of years ago, they said, this is a superfluous word, we don't need it. But it's still there. And the scholars make great play of this word. He fell on his neck. Does that mean that Esau was a vampire? He was going to bite him. He was really worried. I think I prefer the track changes myself. We'll see that when we come to it in the scroll. And Esau looked around and saw the women and the children, and he said, "Who are these? Yours?" And Jacob answered, "The children with whom God has favored your servant." Then the lesser wives, with their children approached and bowed down. Leah too approached with her children and bowed down. And afterwards Joseph and Rachel approached and bowed down. And Esau said, "What, is all this camp that I came across yours?" And Jacob replied, "Yes, it is all meant to find favor in the sight of my Lord." Esau said, "I have an abundance, my brother. Let what is yours be yours." Jacob said, "No, please, if I have found favor in your sight, take the offering from my hand, for to see your face is like seeing the face of God, and you have already shown me favor. Please accept the gift of my blessing that has been presented to you. God has been gracious to me, and I have all that I need." But Jacob kept on pressing him until Esau accepted. Esau then said, "Let's start on our way. I'll go by your side." But Jacob answered, "My Lord knows that the children are delicate, and I have much to think about the sheep and the cattle that are nursing. If I drive them hard a single day, the small cattle will perish. Let my Lord go on ahead of his servant, and as for myself, let me proceed on my way at my own pace, following the footsteps of the livestock in front of me and following the footsteps of the children until I catch up with my Lord near Seirah." Esau said, "Well, pray, let me leave behind with you a portion of the force that accompanies me." But Jacob said, "Oh, why should my Lord show me such favor?" So that day Esau started back on his way to Seir, while Jacob went to Sukkot, where he built a house for himself and shelters for his livestock. That's why the place was called Sukkot. And they didn't see each other until their father's funeral, some chapters along. So here's the Hebrew. And the Torah cam will show you. Good find in the right place. "Vayisa Yaakov enav, vayar, v'hine Esav bo, v'imo 400 ish. ויחץ את הילדים על לאה ועל רחל ועל שתי השפחות, וישם את השפחות ואת ילדיכן ראשונה, ואת לאה וילדיה האחרונים, ואת רחל ואת יוסף אחרונים. והוא עבר לפניכם וישתחוו ארצה 7 פעמים עד גשתו עד אחיו. וירץ עשיו לקראתו, ויחבקהו, ויפול על צוואריו, וישקהו. And I don't know if you can see it there, the dots over this yishakeu, 1 dot over each letter. וישקהו, ויבכו. וישב את עיניו, וירא את הנשים ואת הילדים, ויאמר, מי אלה לך? ויאמר, הילדים אשר חנן אלוהים את עבדך. ותיגשנה השפחות הנה וילדיכן והשתחוונה. ותיגש גם לאה וילדיה וישתחוו, ואחר ניגש יוסף ורחל וישתחוו. ויאמר, מי לך כל המחנה הזה אשר פיגשתי? ויאמר, למצוא חן בעיני אדוני. ויאמר, עשיו, יש לי רב אחי, יהי לך אשר לך. ויאמר יעקב, אל נא אמנע מצאתי הן בעיניך, ולקחת מנחתי מידי, כי על כן ראיתי פניך כראות פני אלוהים ותרצני. קח נא את ברכתי אשר הובט לך, כי הנני אלוהים, וכי יש לי כל יבצר בו ויקח. ויאמר, נישא ונערך ואילך לנגדך, ויאמר אליו, אדוני, יודע כי הילדים רכים ואת הצאן והבקר עלות עלי, ודפקום יום אחד ומתו כל הצאן. יעבר נא אדוני לפני עבדו, ואני אתנחלה לאיתי לרגל המלאכה אשר לפני ולרגל הילדים עד אשר אבוא אל אדוני שעירה. ויאמר עשיו, הצגנה נא עמך מן העם אשר איתי, ויאמר למה זה אם זו כן בעיני אדוני. וישב ביום ההוא עשיו לדרכו שעירה. ויעקב נישא סוכותה ויבן לו בית למקנהו אשתך סוכות, על כן קרא שם המקום סוכות.
The advantage of the Torah is we all see how difficult some of the words are, where all the letters are together.
It may have huge heritage, the Kolya scroll, but it's
It's not the
appallingly written.
easiest to read. We're going to hear the blessing after the reading.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet b'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Would you please rise? Baruch shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato.
We said the Torah is always the challenge, but it's not a problem at all. Do you want to say something before the blessing or also after the blessing for the Haftarah? After. We're going to go to the blessing.
I think so.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bocha b'nviim tovim uvratza v'divrechem hane'emarim ba'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah ובמשה עבדו, ובישראל עמו, ובנביאי האמת והצדק.
Hard act to follow, both my husband and my children. Very, very, very proud, very proud. So I was moved to see Steve overcome talking about the Colleen Scroll. It's been such a journey over decades for us and taught us so much about the Czech Republic, and we've been to Colleen so often, and it's very special to us. Go and look it up if you don't know. This is an interesting Haftarah. It's not the traditional one. It's from Jeremiah, and it references Jacob as Israel. So I think that's why it's one that's relevant. But Jeremiah is normally the prophet of doom. You know, there's that expression, oh, a real Jeremiah. But here he's not, he's the prophet of consolation. And I say that, but you'll hear, he says some really beautiful things. If you try to picture in your mind some of the images, they're absolutely gorgeous. And most interesting for me, there is, those of you who like the additional service, there is what is apparently a really sad lament called Ramah, a voice from Ramah, in Ramah. And it's about Rachel mourning for her children, weeping for her children. Rachel weeping for her children, that's right. And it's sung every year in the additional service wonderfully by Avril Whitty. So I'm excited to see that she's watching today, so with us today. So anyway, listen out particularly because it doesn't have a sad ending. It has a happy ending, and I never knew that. So it excites me. Anyway, this is from chapter 31. Thus said the Eternal, the people escaped from the sword, found favor in the wilderness. When Israel was marching homeward, I revealed myself to you of old. Eternal love I conceived for you then. Therefore, I continue my grace to you. I will build you firmly again, O maiden Israel. Again you shall take up your timbrels and go forth to the rhythm of the dancers. Again you shall plant vineyards on the hills of Samaria. You shall plant and live to enjoy them. For the day is coming when watchmen shall proclaim on the heights of Ephraim, "Come, let us go up to Zion, to the Eternal our God." For thus said the Eternal, "Cry out in joy for Jacob, shout at the crossroads of the nations, sing aloud in praise and say, Save, O God, your people, the remnant of Israel. I will bring them in from the northland, gather them from the ends of the earth, the blind and the lame among them, those with child and those in labor. In a vast throng they shall return here. They shall come with weeping, and with compassion I will guide them. I will lead them to streams of water, by a level road where they will not stumble, for I am ever a parent to Israel. Ephraim is my firstborn. Hear the word of the Eternal, O nations, and tell it in the isles afar. Say, you who scattered Israel will gather them and will guard them as a shepherd his flock. For the Eternal will ransom Jacob, redeem him from one too strong for him. They shall come and shout on the heights of Zion, radiant over the bounty of the Eternal, over new grain and wine and oil, and over sheep and cattle. They shall fare like a watered garden. They shall never languish again. Then shall maidens dance gaily, young men and old alike. I will turn their mourning to joy. I will comfort them and cheer them in their grief. I will give the priests their fill of fatness, and my people shall enjoy my full bounty, declares our God. Then said the Eternal, a cry is heard in Ramah, wailing, bitter weeping, Rachel weeping for her children. She refuses to be comforted for her children who are gone. Thus said the Eternal, restrain your voice from weeping, your eyes from shedding tears, for there is a reward for your labor, declares our God. They shall return from the enemy's land, and there is hope for your future, declares our God. Your children shall return to their country.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam so kol haolamim tzaddik b'chol hadorot ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer v'ha'oseh u'medaber u'mekayim sheb'chol devarot emet v'tzedek al ha'torah v'al ha'avodah v'al ha'neviim v'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh שנתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ולתפארת. על הכל, אדוני אלוהינו, אנחנו מודים לך, ומברכים אותך. יתברך שמחה בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, Makadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
Eternal God, whose dominion embraces the universe, we ask your blessing for our Sovereign Lady, Queen Elizabeth, and all the royal family, for those who govern our country and all who influence the quality of its national life. Make them conscious of their responsibility and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion in this country a society that excels in freedom and justice, tolerance and compassion, so that it may be a force for righteousness and peace in the life of humanity.
Eternal God, as you blessed our ancestors in generations past, bless now this congregation, its leaders and its members, and all who enter the synagogue to meet, to study, and to pray. Comfort the sorrowing hearts among us, and heal those in anxiety or pain. May we all find here community and friendship, renewal of purpose and hope, a deeper understanding of our heritage and a sense of your abiding presence. Bless all congregations of the House of Israel throughout the world. Let those who live under oppressive rule soon be freed, and may we all unite to witness to your truth and do your will.
Eternal God, our rock and redeemer, grant blessing to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream and to be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and citizens with faithfulness to the aims of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all its inhabitants, and to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbours, and cause to come true once more the ancient vision that out of Zion shall go forth Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem. And before we hear the words of Ki Lekach Tov, a few words for you, Judy and Steve. I don't know which way to look, really. The camera or to look. I'm going to face Judy and Steve. When we consider those words, it is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it. There are few for whom these words could not be more appropriate. Every time I say the words with so many groups within our community, la'asok b'divrei Torah, to be engaged in the words of Torah, this truly accounts for the two of you. Shammai, whose voice is not always heard over Hillel's, his study partner and mate, or opponent maybe we'd say, used to say, make your study of Torah a fixed routine. Judy and Steve, you study with us with every opportunity. Indeed, Steve, you are chair of our rabbinical institution, trying to make sure that rabbis into the future come study Torah and then engage their communities and congregations forever in the words of Torah. But it is not just about study of Torah. Shammai also said, say little and do much. Judy and Steve, you do say quite a bit, but you also do so much more. Not only for us as a congregation, but huge amounts for us as a congregation. But in the way that you live your life, you bring so much honour to society, to those who came before you, those of our Jewish people who hold being engaged within community and society so dear. And Shammai concluded, greet everyone with a cheerful face. And that you most certainly do. May you, la'asok b'divrei Torah, be engaged in the words and the doings of Torah for so many years to come.
And so we ask for God's blessing for you with these ancient words. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'choneka. May God look kindly upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God reach out to you in tenderness and give you peace. Amen. And most importantly, a big mazel tov.
And can I kiss the bride?
You can kiss the bride, absolutely. And so we say, behold my Torah I give to you. Do not forsake it. It is a tree of life to those who hold it fast, and all who cling to it find happiness. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace.
Ki lekach tov natati lachem, Torati al tazovu, Etz chaim hi lamachazim. אלוקים בה, ותומכיך מאושר, דרכיך דרכי נועם, וכל נתיבותיך שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך, ונשובה חדש ימינו כקדם, חדש ימינו כקדם.
So we turn to our concluding prayers now on page
519.
519. I knew that all the way along. And please do rise. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen va'amen. Baruch Adonai Elohim, Elohei Yisrael, Osei niflaot levado, u'baruch Shem kavodo le'olam. V'yimalech kavodo et kol ha'aretz. Amen va'amen. The eternal God shall rule over all the earth. On that day, the eternal God shall be one and known to be one. May your love, O God, rest upon us as we rest our hope in you. All the nations that you have made shall come and bow down before you and honor your name.
Baruch Adonai bayom.
Baruch Adonai balayla.
Baruch Adonai b'shochbeinu.
Baruch Adonai b'kumeinu.
Avinu Shabashamayim, our God in heaven, let your unity be acknowledged and your sovereignty established forever. Reign over us now and always.
Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed.
Both rabbis just realized that the yard-side list is not on the desk. If you are remembering someone's yard-side or recent death at the moment, then do feel free to post that in the comments as well.
It is hard to feel serene when our world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone. Yet in the emptiness their passing leaves behind, we are not alone. For we have the companionship of the living, and even our loved ones who have died live on in our hearts. For what they were is part of what we have become. We honour them best when we live as they would wish, responsibly and happily, even in the shadow of our loss, and so draw closer to the source of life, in whom every life finds meaning, purpose, and hope.
And on this Shabbat, we think of those whose yahrzeit falls at this time, of Alan Dankner, the brother of Eli, of Israel Berg, the father of Judy, of Ivan Lazarus, the husband of Ray, father of Elise and brother-in-law of Ben, of Jack Spire, the grandfather of Richard Collin, of Evelyn Adams, the wife of Ted, mother of Yvette and Leo Mendel, of Martin Rudner, the partner of Angela Gedron, the father of Alisa and brother of Bonnie Spira, of Matthew Ray, the brother of Andrew Ray and brother-in-law of Nicole Cohen Ray. We think of Nathan Cashman, the father of Sharon Phillips and Jackie Narden, grandfather of Mark and Ellie. We think of Nick Marcuse, the husband of Elizabeth and father of Anne Bluston and Paul Marcuse. We think of Rena Gamser, the mother of Robert Voss, grandmother of Antonia, Jamie and Ben. Of Stella Finkel, the sister of Valerie Crash. Of Sylvia Graff, the mother of Davida Phillips. And we are saddened by the recent deaths of Benson Hirsch, the brother-in-law of Ray Blatcher, husband of Felicia and father of Matthew and Laura, and of Joyce Cremona, the sister of Julian Cornblatt and the late Mary Driffel, aunt of Duffy, mother to Carol and Colin, and grandmother to Chloe and Carl. Zichronam livracha, may their memory be a source of blessing as we say together. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, b'alma divrach yirotei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, b'gala v'zman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ulamei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ah v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitada v'yitalel v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, damiran balma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol b'nei Adam, v'imru, Amen.
May the Most High, source of perfect peace, grant peace to us, to all Israel, to all peoples, and to all those who mourn. And let us say together, Amen. Please be seated.
In a moment, we're going to conclude with Adon Olam. If you're following in the prayer book, that's on page 525, or you can just follow along on the screen. Big mazel tov again to Judy and Steve, and lovely to have so many of you celebrating with them today. We hope that you enjoyed the different pieces of music that we brought into the service, because I know all of the people who featured and contributed to the music would have loved to be here in person to celebrate with you, as of course your children and grandchildren would have been delighted to be able to do. But it is wonderful that at least in some way we can magically bring them into our sanctuary here, and it's certainly wonderful to have you with us in person.
Rabbi Leah and I don't stop, though, because at 2 o'clock, you're welcome to join us for our Exploring Judaism. And even if you don't want to explore Judaism right now, you may want to join us at 4:30 for Havdalah this evening.
Absolutely. And before that, though, join us for Kiddush.
I'm sorry about that. Yes, join us for Kiddush, and you'll find just right at the end of the service, stay where you are because you can see us live, or you'll see the Zoom room details if come up for you as well. Please do join us so that you can speak with Steve and Judy after the service. But for now, a suitably dramatic Adon Olam. Adon Olam Hashem Alach, Hayya Bavai, B'terem kol yetzir nivra, Hayya Bavai, Le'it nasa v'chefso kol, Hayya Bavai, Azai melech shemo nikra, Hayya Bavai, Adon Olam Hashem Alach, B'terem kol yetzir nivra, Le'it nasa v'chefso kol, Azai melech shemo nikra. Ve'acharei kichlot hakol, Hayya Bavai, Leva'ado yimloch nora, Hayya Bavai, Ve'hu haya ve'hu choveh, Hayya Bavai, V'azu yeh b'tifara, Hayya Bavai, Adon Olam Hashem Alach, B'terem kol yetzir nivra, Le'it nasa v'chefso kol, Azai melech shemo nikra. Ve'hu echad ve'ein sheni, Hayya Bavai, Lehamshilo lehachbira, Hayya Bavai, Ve'li reshim ve'li tachlit, Hayya Bavai, Ve'lo ha'oz ve'hamizrah, Hayya Bavai, Adon Olam Shemo Nikra.
והוא אלי וחי גולי, יבא בבי, וצוחב לי בעת צרה, יבא בבי,
והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, יבא בבי, ונקוסי ביום מקרא, יבא בבי, אדון עולם, אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא. אזי מלך שמו נקרא. בידו אף כדרוכי, היה בבי, בעת ישן והעירה, היה בבי. גביעתי, היה בבי, אדוני לי ולא אירע, היה בבי, אדון עולם, אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, אדון עולם, אשר מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, ונכסה בחפצו, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. Please rise. Into your hand we place our souls, asleep, awake, for you are near. And with our souls, our bodies too, you are our God, we shall not fear. Adonai Oz le'amo yitain, eternal God, grant strength to your people. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Eternal God, bless your people with peace, so that we can celebrate life together in community. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
and Mazel
Shalom,
Tov.
Mazel Tov.